They accomplished the impossible. Over 4,000 years ago, an ancient superpower arose, without kings, without pyramids, or recorded warfare. This was the Indus Valley Civilization, larger in area than both Egypt and Mesopotamia combined, stretching over 1 million square kilometers. Their prosperity was built on meticulous urban planning and a far-reaching trade network. The surprising uniformity in their weights and measures indicates high-level central coordination. But then, they vanished. Not by war. There is no evidence of a large-scale invasion. No royal tombs to tell the full story. The silence is deafening. The biggest question, why did such a robust, sophisticated civilization rapidly de-urbanize around 1900 BCE? What was the catalyst? We had to look for evidence not in the brick walls, but in something invisible, the climate. The Earth itself held the answer in its ancient layers. Scientists turned to records older than any Harappan script, the geological layers and the chemical signatures within ancient rock formations, a perfect climate recorder. Cutting-edge research on monsoon patterns and cave stalagmites revealed a silent killer known as the 4.2 Kiloyear Event. The Indus River system was nourished not only by Himalayan snowmelt, but critically, by the rainfall brought by the summer monsoons. The core problem was the South Asian monsoon, the highly seasonal yet reliable source of water for all Indus agriculture. Around 4,200 years ago, the monsoon began to fail. This wasn't just a dry spell, but a global climate event that brought a mega-drought lasting over 200 years. The sophisticated climate models indicated a severe, sustained drought, which permanently altered their ecosystem, especially near the main cities in the west. The perennial river flow began to cease. The sacred Ghaggar-Hakra River, once the heart of core settlements, turned into a dry, dusty track. Famine loomed large. The entire civilization did not collapse at once. Instead, it was a protracted, desperate internal migration following the dwindling rains. Archaeological evidence shows people moving east, towards areas closer to the more reliable, though still erratic, Bay of Bengal monsoon system. But how could such an advanced, peace-loving civilization fail to adapt? The answer lies in the vulnerability of their very perfection, their uniformity. Their highly centralized, urbanized system was constrained by a single vast water source and fixed distribution network. This rigidity became their ultimate weakness. Geochemical science provides the definitive proof. The chemical fingerprint of their shifting sustenance and material sources is preserved. Isotope analysis from human remains revealed a major shift in diet and water sources. They lost access to their high-quality perennial water supply. They transitioned from flood-dependent crops like wheat and barley to drought-resistant millets and rice, a desperate effort for self-preservation. The hidden riverbeds and settlements long buried by sand were finally uncovered thanks to LiDAR, light detection and ranging technology. The topographical maps revealed a vast, intricate network of canals and old river routes that had been rendered useless as the primary water source vanished. The civilization did not die. It de-urbanized, transforming into smaller, more resilient regional cultures that paved the way for modern South Asia. The Indus Valley Civilization remains the world's most ancient, stark warning of how rapidly climate change can reshape the fate of humanity. Paleobotanical, pollen analysis, data from lake and river sediments further confirmed the ecological collapse. Wetland flora vanished. This proved the change was not merely a water shortage, but a fundamental alteration of the region's entire life-sustaining ecosystem. The failure of the monsoon led to the systematic depletion of their massive central granaries, causing socio-economic stress and breakdown. Bioarchaeologists utilized ancient DNA to precisely time and trace the sudden, forced shift in preferred food crops. The environmental decline was gradual, a slow-motion catastrophe that gave them time to relocate, but guaranteed the demise of the central cities. The magnificent, centralized perfection of their urban water management became its ultimate structural weakness when the source failed. Areas of communal importance, such as the monumental Great Bath, were abandoned first as water scarcity became acute and unmanageable. Material analysis showed a clear, sharp drop-off in imported luxury goods, signaling the total collapse of long-distance trade routes. The end of the unified script and ceiling system confirms the political and economic fragmentation into smaller, self-sufficient regional cultures. Excavation levels show a clear deterioration in the quality of urban construction and municipal services in the final centuries of the core cities. This ancient history holds a powerful mirror to our present challenges with atmospheric shifts, water scarcity, and the need for structural adaptability. The final act was not a battle, but a slow, orderly, though painful abandonment of their grandest achievements in search of water. The statistical correlation between the onset of the mega-drought and the de-urbanization phase is one of the strongest in paleoclimatic history. The survivors embraced a more flexible, resilient, and localized rain-fed agricultural lifestyle in the East. Their script, once the mark of a unified, powerful entity, faded into obscurity, a final casualty of the great climate shift. Each layer of ancient mud, rock, and pollen tells a high-resolution story of survival, a testament to human resilience against impossible odds. The seeds of the great civilization were scattered, but they took root in the East, creating the foundation for new, diversified regional cultures. Modern technology like LiDAR continues to redefine the scale of the crisis, revealing more hidden settlements that document the diaspora. Their initial ingenuity was built on accessing deep aquifers, but even these reserves failed during the protracted, merciless drought. Bone chemistry confirms increased nutritional stress, disease incidence, and a shortened life expectancy as the resource crisis worsened. The Indus collapse was not isolated. It was part of a larger global climate event, known to have severely affected major civilizations across the northern hemisphere. The loss was profound, marking the end of the first great experiment in centralized, cooperative urban living. Satellite imagery confirms the ancient river's trajectory, validating the geological and sophisticated climate models that predicted the disaster. The transition from urban mastery to decentralized survival was a difficult, multi-generational process marked by decades of hardship and forced adaptation. Every microscopic ring in the cave rock is a precise chronological record of the rainfall that fell, or tragically failed to fall across the subcontinent. Their story is a powerful lesson. No matter how advanced, a civilization's fate is intrinsically linked to the delicate, easily disrupted balance of its climate. The great reservoirs of cities like Dolavira, once symbols of ingenuity, now stand as monuments to a lost, brutal battle with nature. Comparing ancient reconstructions with modern satellite data reveals the true devastating scale of the permanent desertification in the core region. At their height, they were a global trade nexus, connected to Mesopotamia and the Arabian Peninsula by sophisticated sea routes. When the rivers and coastlines shifted due to climate change, their crucial maritime lifeline was cut, accelerating the economic and political decline. Advanced proteomics and archaeobotanical analysis precisely confirms the rapid dietary shift from large grain consumption to resilient millets. The ghosts of Mohenjo-Daro whisper a warning. Not even the greatest, most organized city can withstand the irreversible change of nature. Climate models show the catastrophic northward shift of the ITCZ, the driver of the monsoon, resulting in 2 centuries of crippling dryness. The stratigraphy is chillingly clear, a sudden, distinct break in the layers of civilization marked by the prolonged, devastating arid period. The consensus among all multidisciplinary teams confirms the climate as the undeniable primary forcing mechanism for the societal collapse. The shift in religious artifacts suggests a corresponding shift in focus, from urban centralized power to local agrarian survival deities. The migration wasn't random. It was a strategically necessary move, following ancient higher pathways of more reliable Bay of Bengal rainfall. The challenges they faced with water scarcity are eerily mirrored by our own modern threats of sea level rise and extreme weather events. The unresolved mystery of their script is the final eloquent silence of a people who were undone by the invisible geological force of nature. From the grand metropolis to dispersed villages, the civilization's transformation is a testament to the planet's ultimate, unchallengeable authority. Geophysical data, like magnetic susceptibility, further confirms the sudden increase in wind-blown dust and sediment erosion during the drought. Beyond the drought, sea level changes in the Gulf of Kambat stranded key coastal trading posts, adding maritime disaster to the crisis. The centralized administrative structure, which once managed vast surpluses, crumbled when local decentralized survival became necessary. Computer simulations show that even small changes in monsoon intensity led to massive unsustainable drops in staple crop yield. The highly efficient trade routes, key to their wealth, ground to a halt as resources became scarce and localized. The great demographic shift was undeniable. Millions moved, carrying their culture but leaving their monumental cities behind. A direct comparison links the narrow growth rings in stalagmites, dry years, with the decline in the quality of Harappan craftsmanship. Survival meant abandoning the grand urban scale for smaller, simpler, and crucially more water-resilient ways of life. The broken, sand-filled drains of Mohenjo-Daro tell the story of a system that was perfectly designed for water abundance, not scarcity. The cracks in the earth were the ultimate judgment on a civilization that had built its world on a climatic constant that proved to be temporary. Modern hydrogeology helps us grasp the sheer volume of water that was lost from the Indus system over those critical centuries. The massive shift from large public wells to smaller communal sources reflects the societal change from centralized planning to local self-reliance. The timeline is precise. The environmental trigger led to an urban exodus that lasted roughly 300 years, gradually shrinking the empire. Archaeological fibers and textiles show a subtle shift away from the cultivation of water-intensive cotton, another adaptation to the drought. The changes in burial practices reflect a loss of the rigid, unified social structure and the rise of local egalitarianism. New studies on Himalayan glacier stability reveal that even the snowmelt contribution was insufficient to sustain the urban centers during the Mega-Drought. The quality of construction materials, once uniform and excellent, deteriorated dramatically, symbolizing the loss of central authority. The collapse was a cultural metamorphosis. The great unifying Harappan culture gave way to a mosaic of smaller, differentiated regional successor cultures. Even the agricultural tools changed, reflecting a move away from large-scale riverine farming to small, intensive local cultivation. The vast empty plains became a harsh reminder of their vulnerability, forcing them to continue their arduous journey eastward. Modern system dynamics models confirm that the interplay of climate change, centralization, and resource dependence created a perfect storm. The fine carnelian beads, once traded across continents, were replaced by simpler, locally sourced materials, symbolizing the decline in craft specialization. Zooarchaeological data on animal bones confirms a shift in livestock and grazing patterns, adapting to the increasingly arid grasslands. River traffic, once the backbone of their inland trade, ceased as the water levels dropped, isolating the major centers. Paleoflood records show a significant reduction in annual Indus River floods, essential for nourishing the flood-dependent crops like wheat. The abandonment of massive water storage infrastructure is the clearest physical sign of a defeated attempt to overcome the climate crisis. Virtual reality reconstructions allow us to feel the shock of the sudden transformation from a crowded metropolis to an empty ghost town. Population estimates based on site size and density confirm a massive and sustained demographic contraction. Ceramic analysis shows a clear regional divergence, confirming the breakup of the formerly unified cultural sphere. The shift to millet cultivation was not just a diet change, but a complete overhaul of their entire agricultural strategy for survival. Cuneiform tablets from Mesopotamia show that external trade references to Meluha, Indus, abruptly cease, confirming the economic isolation. Ancient DNA analysis of human remains indicates an increase in waterborne and stress-related diseases coinciding with the decline. The empty riverbeds, once sources of life, became the highways for the masses desperately seeking wetter lands. This dark, distinct layer in the core sample is the physical evidence of the Mega-Drought, a concentrated band of dust and wind-blown sediment. The rapid decline of standardized weights, seals, and pottery marks the end of the Indus Empire's cultural homogeneity. The fall of the great cities was not a failure of civilization itself, but a necessary, forced evolution to survive the environmental devastation. The survivors embraced polyculture and localized farming, rejecting the large monoculture fields of the early Harappan period. While the population density in the core area plummeted, it surged in the east, showing the success of their forced adaptation. Even their pottery evolved, with new designs focused on water conservation and minimizing evaporation loss. The analysis is not just historical, it helps climate scientists understand the long-term cyclical risk factors for monsoon failure in modern South Asia. The grand international markets vanished, replaced by a robust but entirely local and self-sufficient bartering economy. The Harappan script, the intellectual jewel of the civilization, was abandoned, as the need for recording centralized trade and administration vanished. The pursuit of monumentality and large-scale public works ended, replaced by a singular focus on practical, localized survival. Metal sourcing analysis reveals that the late Harappans relied on much closer localized sources, reflecting the breakdown of long-distance resource acquisition. The heartland of the Indus civilization, once a breadbasket, was simply too arid to support dense urban populations anymore. The duration is key. A drought that lasts over 2 centuries requires complete, irreversible societal change, not just temporary measures. The desert sands were the final judges, steadily burying the achievements of an entire civilization, brick by brick. The diaspora survivors carried their legacy, influencing the culture and early societal structures of the succeeding Vedic period in the East. Ultimately, the story is one of human resilience, the ability to reinvent, to shrink, and to survive in a radically altered world. Understanding the mechanisms of the monsoon is key. The fate of the Indus was determined by a massive natural shift in global atmospheric circulation. The enduring message from the ruins is that life, in some form, always adapts, but sometimes at the cost of complexity. The decline in water infrastructure, from the Great Bath to simple pits, vividly illustrates the desperation of the late period. Every piece of data, from ancient bones to modern satellite scans, tells the same story. The verdict of history is unanimous. Thanks to geochemistry, LiDAR, and isotope analysis, the mysterious veil is lifted. The ultimate culprit was not human action, but the unstoppable change of the planet. The Indus civilization collapsed in silence, leaving a legacy of resilience and a timeless warning. We are not immune to the planet's ultimate authority.